Well, I wanted to schedule this call, and I didn't share too much detail, but I like just want to give you a heads up and share a personal update, which is like I decided that I'm going to be putting in my 2 weeks notice. So yeah, I wanted to give you a heads up so that you're not like caught off guard if you like see an email come through. Yeah, I know, it might be come off as a surprise. I just like want to take some time to like take a career break and then figure out what's next for me. You're the first person I've told, so thanks. Good morning, guys. It's been about 2 weeks since I quit my job. And honestly, it's been a lot different than I expected. We're slowly figuring things out. I have been wanting to tell you everything, and I've also found myself to be just completely exhausted. Surprisingly, I hadn't realized that I would need to rebuild so much momentum after quitting my job. But it makes sense. Especially because it was a very intense, always on type of job. So I thought today that we'll get out of the apartment and I could tell you everything. Can I get the brown butter caramel latte? Hot. And can I do a 10 ounce? Okay, I have found a spot in which I think there is less traffic and people noises. The cafe was really busy, which I shouldn't have been surprised, but anyway, I got a brown butter caramel latte. I accidentally went on the Golden Gate Bridge on the way here, which is so annoying because if you get on the Golden Gate Bridge, then you have to pay the toll on the way back, and you have to drive all the way across the bridge. Anyway, I'm rambling so much about everything except for the topic of this video. So for those of you who don't know, I graduated in December of 2020 during the pandemic, and I was living at home with my parents. At Berkeley, I had studied a bachelor's in data science and a minor in theater and performance studies, and I had it in my mind that I wanted to go the theater route. I really wanted to pursue grad school, which if you saw my applications to MFA's video, then you'll know that I did try to apply a year ago. And when I didn't get into grad school, I decided that I would stick around and try again after a while, but not without first addressing the big career question, which is like, can I do something in corporate which is not going to, be the same as like working in theater, but something sustainable, something that isn't management consulting, because you tend to work like 50 to 60 hour weeks. It's already pretty exhausting, and then to have any sort of like second career on top of that is just insane. So already for the last 5 years, I don't feel like the career I was in was like at all a right fit for me. That being said, I've always been taught that I should put myself like strategically in a stable position so that I can continue to pursue the things that I love without like worrying about money or worrying about what type of lifestyle I'm going to live. Especially growing up in Silicon Valley, where most people either went into business or tech. I haven't really seen people, aside from maybe some of my classmates from college, pursue anything like that's totally out there. And even when it comes to my college classmates, I feel like I've seen people who have gone into really good programs take out student loans in order to be able to attend them, and I was always very like concerned about that because of the whole situation of like the pandemic and everyone having to be at home. Like, I didn't really pursue theater very much after college. I started work remotely, but the idea was always to go back to it and to pursue it at, you know, a graduate level. Turns out it's a lot harder to get into a program, and it takes many people 2 or 3 tries to find a program that's the right fit. And I spent all these years sort of focused on saving money for grad school because I didn't want to have to take out student loans and worry about whether I could pay off that debt as an actor after grad school. I know a lot of people in situations where that has really become pressure in their lives, is like, how am I going to pay off my student loan debt as an actor trying to like make it work in a new city? And I really didn't want to like even really come close to that situation. I think I tend to play it more on the safe side, which that goes into like why I stayed in consulting for that long. Okay, first of all, what is consulting? Because many of you might not even know what a consultant does. And that is so normal because I didn't know what a consultant does until I actually started working in management consulting. A consultant, like, you can be an independent consultant, but working for a firm, you know, makes the process a lot more organized. It's kind of like a fancy word to say a specialist or a contractor. Many companies may not have an employee or a dedicated team to do some specific work that it could be short-term, it could be long-term. It might be that they don't have an employee with the right expertise and they don't want to go through a full hiring process. It could be that it's more of a temporary project, so they don't really want to like go through the process of like hiring somebody or training somebody just for them to then focus on something else later. It's like a bit of a waste of time. So they will contract with a consultant to do the work, or a consulting team, and carry out that project. And over time, a consulting firm and a consultant in general tries to be more or less irreplaceable to the client so that it's not just a short-term engagement anymore. It's like a long-term relationship. And this can be really beneficial because consulting firms have dedicated expertise. They have relationships with vendors or like other organizations that they might bring on to help with the project. And they have visibility across and work with multiple clients so that it's not just, I don't know, supporting one company over a long period of time. You could really tap into industry knowledge by working with a lot of different clients. So you could be doing so many number of things as a consultant, but the job that I did for the last 5 years was a combination of some of the more like quantitative data work, but a lot of it was, I would say, like managing a team in order to carry out those types of like analytics projects. Rather than being in Excel sheets a lot, which like often you'll hear the joke that consultants see Excel more than they see their family. I learned some of those Excel skills, but a lot of it was like I'm working with team members in order to plan and manage a project, And I'm also talking with the client to understand like what are their needs, what do you want to like accomplish in this project, and what are the really specific details that need to be addressed in the process. So through all of that, more of the work becomes like strategic in nature, and then the analysis piece is carried out by a team who's offshore, at least with the company that I worked with. I honestly didn't think that I would survive for 5 years. Honestly, at a certain point, it was more that I had survived and learned in the process because you have to, rather than feeling like I actually like did anything more at a certain point. But after you're there for so long, you just develop a lot of knowledge and remember things that other people just have never even touched in their careers. I feel like the stereotype with bigger consulting firms is that they're very demanding jobs. I don't know what it's like at other firms. I've never worked there, but for the firm I worked at, it was really difficult to keep up with people's demands when they didn't align with like my personal time boundaries. Honestly, I tried to stay in corporate. I tried to look for other jobs. I tried to switch from consulting into industry, but there's always a bit of a gap in terms of like what people needed and what I was doing in my job. And I could have continued to look for another corporate job that would, allow me to live a pretty nice lifestyle and not worry about all that while I'm starting a second career. But I realized over time that it just wasn't what I wanted. I did not feel motivated to like look for another corporate job. I kind of just stayed for so long thinking like maybe I'll find the energy to figure out what's next. It got to a point where I was like, I think I would rather work as a barista than keep looking for another corporate job. All the things that I want in a career are not really well supported by me being at my desk for 8 hours straight or doing things on the computer that are not creative in nature. Like, okay, I could, work on the computer for a long period of time, but like it needs to be creative in nature for me to feel like fulfilled, or at least there needs to be some purpose to it. And I just really did not feel motivated to keep looking. What are the classic reasons why people leave consulting? So the long hours is definitely a thing. I think that can be firm dependent, but because you are working for a client, like another company, there's a desire to go above and beyond for the customer, and that bleeds into stretching yourself super thin, kind of caving to their demands, which ideally if you have really great managers, that's like well managed and not an issue. But I saw this happening in my client, not just in my own company. Just people being willing to like stretch their boundaries for things that in my mind like an ideal job wouldn't make you do. So like working past 5 p.m. on the regular. Or for me, it was getting up every morning to take early morning calls and then occasionally having to meet with an India offshore team late in the evening, such that I really just like couldn't get good sleep. Some of these things are things you could do for a short period of time. Ideally you would just never have a job that like requires you to do these things, but sometimes that's necessary, right? I felt like I definitely couldn't balance all of that and start a second career, and I don't think I realized how burnt out I was until actually like my last week of work, my last couple weeks of work. I mean, definitely I felt really pushed at the moment that I made the decision. It was really talking with a friend who had also decided to make the same decision, but he actually decided to stay in corporate and just look for other work. For me, I had that conversation with him, and he basically said like he had come to this realization that life's too short, that there's more important things. It's simply important to just enjoy life beyond working all the time, and he was really over it at that point, realizing that like it's not what he wanted to do, and it was a waste of time to like continue down this path where he didn't see himself in the future. I feel like it took me seeing him do that, and then maybe somebody else in my position would have made the choice a lot sooner, because like I saved a good amount of money the last 5 years in order to, like, I don't know, feel comfortable doing this. But he did convince me to quit a couple months sooner than I would have. I probably would have stayed until, like, I don't know, most of, like, the projects I were on were completed, not because of the sake of the projects, but because timing-wise it would have aligned with, like, me moving and feeling like I could just significantly reduce my living expenses. I kind of wanted to take things one step at a time, but he really convinced me, like, now is the right time. I could keep making excuses for why I would, like, continue to stay at this job, but, like, at the end of the day, there's something to be said about it being golden handcuffs. Like, you don't feel super secure no matter how much money you've saved to some regard, unless you can feel secure that you will be able to continue making income in a way that's sustainable. And it was scary specifically because the job was not sustainable for me. So all of that culminated in me one evening just feeling so overwhelmed, so frustrated by these, like, 10:30 evening calls. And I was, like, sitting in my car and I was like, dang, I should just quit. So you might be wondering, like, what's next for me? And honestly, I'm trying to be open, but I'm gonna take a good month to just do nothing, because I really need that. After about a month, I'm planning to move so that I don't live by myself. It costs so much to live by myself in San Francisco, and oh god. But there are also plans to move in with my boyfriend at the end of the year, so I'm just gonna be subletting for a little while, which means I'm back on the housing hunt. And I definitely didn't think I would have to, like, move again so soon. Like, I was hoping I would just stay put until I go to grad school, but I guess the universe didn't want me to stay in corporate. I am thinking of starting my odd jobs era, but no matter what I do, it is going to be an era of focusing on myself. I was honestly surprised because I thought that when I suddenly had a bunch of free time that I would just feel super, like, at peace. I mean, everyone kind of thinks this. I've been asked by, like, my managers and other people that I worked with, like, how I'm feeling. Especially in that last week of work. It's like, whoa, it's your last week, it's your last day, like, how are you feeling? It felt different than I expected. I think I just didn't realize how burnt out I felt. I think people have the idea that once you no longer have to worry about, like, all these stressful project details, that you will just, like, feel inner peace. People say that you, like, float through the office when you have given your 2 weeks notice because you realize, like, nothing matters anymore. But I was working till really the last day, so it just didn't feel real yet. Like, I am so used to, like, caring about my work, and I am not somebody who can just, like, decide not to, even though I don't have as much of a stake in it anymore. So it wasn't until, like, the few days after I was done where I just felt so exhausted. Like, I thought I was just gonna take the energy that I put toward my job and put it toward myself now, but it's been a different challenge to actually, like, get myself to do things now that I don't have this, like, external accountability. And I guess good for everyone who can become unemployed, take a break, and just so actively focus on resting, because that just feels super unintuitive to me. I thought I was going to be grabbing coffee and going to the park and laying in the grass and touching grass all the time. Instead, internally, I have this, like, voice that's like, I gotta be productive now. Nobody else is pushing me. Nobody's helping you to, like, start your own career. And maybe it's partially doubt-fueled, because if I had the confidence that I could take a big break and nothing would change about my ability to make money, then I would probably not be so stressed about it. People online have been saying that it's not your ability to keep a job that gives you financial security, it's your ability to find a new job if you lose it that gives you that sense of security, that no matter what kind of economy or situation you're in, that you do feel like you can support yourself. And I haven't had that experience because I've been in the same job for 5 years. So this is all very new to me. I'm gonna be trying out whatever I can. I need to say yes to any opportunities that I can get so that I can learn as much as possible. That being said, I don't see myself returning to corporate that soon because I don't know if it's the corporate trauma or what it is, having just applied to so many jobs and not being able to like find one. I want something that's a bit more on my feet, so I'm gonna be applying to like barista jobs and be working on social media a lot more, and then also be working on my theater career, which needs some attention. I've not told my parents this yet, and it's been a couple weeks. Well, I think they will do nothing but worry, which is why I've not told them yet. But I'm gonna have to tell them sooner or later. I'm not gonna give too much detail because I don't think it's wise to, but I am going to be documenting a lot of it here on this channel and also on my Instagram, same handle. Honestly, there's a part of me that didn't think I would actually survive. After 5 years, you get so used to having a routine that involves a certain kind of work and certain kind of expectations and frustrations, and I never really liked my work all that much. But you start to get so used to it that you think it will never change. And now that everything has changed, I feel like it makes me realize more what has stayed constant, which is my thoughts. Spend a lot more time by myself now, and I'm a lot more aware of the kinds of thoughts that I have when I'm by myself. Whether or not I feel like I can do something, you know, that dictates a lot of your mood. And I think that it took me this long to really like take a shot at doing what I want to do because I didn't know if I could make it work. Being in a city as big as San Francisco as well, you feel like you're just one of many. Like, why can I do this? So that is a lot to grapple with at like 26. And honestly, I don't have a better answer than what one of my favorite creators, Kiara Powell, said, which is, life's just too short for you to believe in other people more than you believe in yourself. I truly believe that if I continued down this path where I was trying to apply to corporate jobs while still being employed, I would have continued to burn myself out. And I was convinced that I wasn't burnt out because about like 1.5 to 2 years into this job, I just had this total crash out in which I was like crying to my roommate about just how burnt out I was. And yet something in me still pushed through, and I continued to work for another 3.5 years. So I was really convinced that is like, if I managed my emotions and stress, that I wasn't burnt out. I used to like envy people who were laid off because so many people will like look back at that moment and think of it as like an inflection point in their life in which they're like, okay, well, the economy's bad, so why don't I just follow my dreams? Freaking Simu Liu got fired before becoming an actor. When I quit, people were asking me if I could stay longer. I desperately wanted that message that I should be doing something that mattered to me from anyone but myself. And it honestly took seeing other people take the leap for me to decide and see that it was possible for myself. If you like go on Reddit and you look up, should I quit my job without anything lined up? Like, half of people are gonna be like, no, never do that. I've been looking for work for 12 months and I haven't found anything, especially in this economy. And then you'll have another group of people that also recognize that sometimes it's necessary. So it's really like, at the end of the day, it's up to you and your circumstances. I made myself really secure financially before doing this because that's what I was comfortable with. I've seen people who have done a lot more and made a lot of big moves with a lot less. So it made me wonder in a way. I was like, should I have done this sooner? I've also seen people after quitting their jobs say that they're like taking some time to figure out what makes them happy. And obviously that's in a non-work context, but I just found that so interesting because it wasn't like I ever like didn't know what made me happy. It's just that like there's so much pressure externally to not pursue the things that just make you happy because there's something about it that feels selfish when it's not. There's also something to be said about like being really good at delayed gratification and how that impacts you. Like, if you've ever heard of the Stanford Marshmallow study, where they gave a lot of kids a marshmallow and they told them, like, if you wait a certain amount of time, we'll double it and give you a second marshmallow. The kids who were able to delay gratification were shown, like, later in life to have a lot of success indicators, like higher SAT scores or better BMI. At a certain point, if you always live in this mode of, like, delaying gratification till later, then you never quite feel like the present is enough. And I don't think that that's something they really can measure or take into consideration in a study like that. There's always a little bit of anxiety about, like, am I doing enough for the future? Or, like, can I fully rest? Seeing, like, rest as a reward instead of something that's just necessary. There's gotta be a balance to these things. And I'm sure, like, being able to delay gratification is good, but you need to be able to also just enjoy the moment. So here's your reminder that if you ever decide to quit something, you are allowed to take a break and rest because your past self worked really hard to make that possible. One other thing I didn't fully expect is that restarting everything feels like shit. I kept up so many different activities while I was full-time in consulting, and it never felt like I could do much more than just show up. Like, I always felt super numb and, like, exhausted just to show up to, like, choir rehearsal or to show up to a theater audition. It, like, took a lot just to show up, and oftentimes people say that showing up is the hardest part, but it didn't feel like enough because even though I was showing up physically, I wasn't, like, mentally there. I felt like a beginner at everything again, and I wasn't expecting that. I feel like all of the anxiety that I had when I first started my job of, like, am I able to be good at this? Can I learn? That same experience applies to anything that you really enjoy. And again, I didn't think I would survive 5 years at this job, but turns out that when you have the pressure to continuously show up, you're being told things that you can do better all the time. Like, I know some people feel like they are just really good at their jobs and just mainly get, like, positive feedback. The firm that I worked in had a culture of very much being balanced in feedback. Like, if you have good things said about yourself, you also have to have areas of improvement. So, like, I never got only good feedback, you know? Maybe my first review I got good feedback, but, like, everything after that was like, how can we push further and get even better at this? So when you're in that kind of an environment, it really doesn't feel good, but it's inevitable that you will learn how to do something because you feel like you can't quit also. I mean, I didn't want to just, like, give up and not have a job, and all of that to say that, like, I'm now experiencing that same set of, like, doubts. I didn't expect that, but I do have the perspective now to be like, I am way better equipped to be a good learner than the first time I ever, like, did something. It is pretty scary though that, like, when you feel all of those negative emotions, now there's nothing external to push you except that, like, you just internally want to do this for yourself. So it does hit a lot harder when you feel doubt or negativity toward yourself. That's still something I'm trying to learn more and, like, manage better. If you are in a similar boat and you're considering whether or not to quit, I would say definitely know what number that you want in your bank account for you to, like, properly say fuck you. Yeah, and then from that point on, just go do it. Like, I think it's silly to be like, only certain types of people are allowed to make bold choices like this. At the end of the day, do what you're comfortable with. I feel like I'm just okay with the fact that it feels chaotic, and I'm gonna, you know, it's all done. It's done, so we're gonna figure ourselves out. With that, I'm gonna head home. Thank you so much for catching up with me. I'm sure this was, like, so rambly and stuff, but I hope you feel motivated no matter what stage in your career you are to make the big moves when you need to and take rest when you need to. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!